Ronald Rolheiser tells the experience of a young man who went to him for confession. It was a difficult confession for the young man. He had been having an affair with a girl, and she had become pregnant. And for a series of reasons, marriage was out of the question. The pregnancy would irrevocably disrupt both lives, his and hers. Not to even mention the life of the child who would be born. He was a very sensitive person, this young man, and he definitely needed no reminders that he had been irresponsible. He made no attempts to rationalize, to offer excuses, or to escape blame and responsibility. He recognized that he had sinned. He ended his confession with Father Rolheiser on a note of sadness and hopelessness. He said, "There is no way I'll ever live normally again beyond this. Even God can't unscramble an egg." What this young man was trying to say was that for him, there would always be a skeleton in the closet. Ordinary life would, in its own way, limp along, and he would remain forever marked by this mistake. I think what we need in the church today, perhaps more than anything else, is a spirituality of brokenness that relates failure and sin seriously enough to redemption. Too often, what is taught as redemption is little more than what Ronald Rolheiser describes the strict law of karma, one chance per lifetime, salvation through getting it right, happiness and innocence only when there is nothing to be forgiven. And as a result, we have too much to fear of God in the end. Ultimately, we look at the scrambled egg. We look at our own mistakes and our failures and our sins, and somehow we come to believe that the loss of a certain grace is irrevocable, that a mistake hangs over us. Basically, we do not believe that there is a second chance, let alone 70 times 7 chances, that can be just as life-giving as the first chance. I think most of you who watched the Novena were raised in a Catholicism which was deeply moral. It took commitment seriously, and it called a sin a sin. It was on most moral issues brutally uncompromised. It asked you not to betray, not to sin, not to make mistakes. And I don't think we have any regrets about that. In fact, I feel such disappointment that so many today are being raised in such a mediocre morality, which excuses far too much and challenges very little. However, if the Catholicism that you and I were raised in had a fault, and it did, it was precisely that it did not allow any room for mistakes. It demanded that we get it right the first time. And there was supposed to be no need for a second chance. If you made a mistake, you live with it, and like the rich young man, you were doomed to be sad, at least for the rest of your life. A serious mistake was like this permanent stigmatization, a mark that you wore like Cain. And you know what? I've seen that mark in all kinds of people. In couples that are divorced. I've seen it in people who left religious life. I've seen it in married people who have had affairs, people who are scarred by their addictions, people who have had children outside of marriage, parents who have made serious mistakes with their children, and countless others who have made serious mistakes. And there's such little compassion to help them. We need a spiritual advocate for brokenness. We need someone who will teach us that even though God cannot unscramble an egg, God's grace lets us live happily and with renewed innocence far beyond any egg we might have scrambled. We need someone who teaches us that God does not just give us one chance, but that every time we close a door, God opens another one for us. We need a person that challenges us, yes, not to make mistakes, to take sin seriously, but who tells us that when we do sin, when we do make mistakes, we have the chance to take our place among the broken, among those whose lives are not perfect, the loved sinners, those for whom Christ came. We need someone who tells us from visiting her from time to time that the second time we visit her, the third, the fourth, and the fifth time are just as valid as the first chance. We need someone who tells us that mistakes are not forever. They are not even for a lifetime. That time and grace have the capacity to wash clean. That nothing is irrevocable. And I think you know where I'm going. We have that someone. That someone was given to us by Jesus before he died. That someone is the Blessed Virgin Mary. We call her our Mother of Perpetual Help. She is the fountain of mercy. You cannot look at her and think of anything else but compassion. She is not committed or concerned with punishing. She is committed to compassion and pardon. St. Bernard says that she opens the vaults of God's mercy to everyone, when she likes and as she likes. There is no sinner, he adds, no matter how broken, who is beyond repair as long as Mary does the mending. St. Bernard goes on and asks, why should our broken humanity fear to approach Mary? There is nothing severe about her, nothing that's meant to frighten us. And Mary not only gives, but she goes out of her way to offer to all, no matter how broken they are, the comfort of her mercy, in order to strengthen their confidence and to shelter them from the storms of condemnation. Go to Mary and let her embrace you under the mantle of her love.